Hey YouTube, this is Zach with Achilles Financial. Today we're going to be talking about Nvidia. Nvidia is going to be announcing earnings this Wednesday, and the reason that we're going to be covering them today is because this is expected to be another record-breaking quarter when it comes to revenue that they're bringing in. The first thing that I want to highlight is that since the last time we covered the stock, there has been an increase in the share price fairly significantly. You can see that just over the course of May to what is now August, they've gone up nearly 40%. The reason why we've seen such a huge increase in that time frame is notably due to the fact that they had some great news surrounding increased forecast, as well as their Q1 earnings showcased, hey, we expect this year to be a killer one, as well as they did do a 4-for-1 stock price split. So what that means is that the current shares, they took each one of them and they split them out, which is now why you see the shares outstanding of 2.5 billion, whereas in the last video when I covered them, it was just south of 750 million. So the other thing that has gone up increasingly during that time period is the PE, or price to earnings ratio, which is a key fundamental that we keep track of for our stocks, which is now currently sitting at just south of 96x. So this stock has been on a tear lately, and we don't believe that that is going to change going into earnings. So the first thing that I'll highlight is right now we've got expectations going in for Q2 of 92 cents. I think I've also seen a number of analysts are expecting $1.02. So sorry, the Q1 earnings was 92 cents. $1.02 is what we'll be looking at for Q2 earnings. You can see that that has, or that will be, a record for the past 4 years or so, ever since the company had significantly higher margins, and they've continued to reinvest as of late, notably due to the fact that they've been growing significantly, as well as they've made some strategic acquisitions. So it's important to note that to achieve this, they're expecting total revenues of right at 6.32 billion. The reason why I want to highlight this, or so that we can look at this right now, is you can see that on the quarterly basis, Q2 last year was right at 3.8 billion in total revenue, whereas Q2 of this year, they're expecting $6.3 billion in total revenue, which is a massive increase from where they've been historically. So this is a company that if you look at their overall growth rates, they continue to grow just at a phenomenal pace. So you can see total revenue growth year over year, or rather over the trailing 12 months, has been just south of 64% year over year. So if you look at the CAGR, or compound annual growth rate, Nvidia has been growing around 50% annually for the better part of the past 5 years. This is a company that continues to perform very, very well. So the question is, can the growth stop? The first thing that I want to highlight is the expectation is this growth here will continue in terms of overall revenue. The other thing I would highlight is, as you can see with the profitability here, the gross profit that they're coming in with right now is more than 60%, which means that every dollar they come in, if you take away their variable cost, they're currently making right at 62.42 cents on every dollar that they bring in. Even after, with all the fixed expenses, depreciation, and any number of accounting tricks that a lot of these large publicly traded companies like to do, their net profit is nearly $28, or 28%, which means every dollar they come in, nearly 28 cents is going straight to profit, which is insane. So that being said, if you look at the overall valuation, they trade at a very high premium to a lot of their peers, whether that's on the price to sales, whether that's on the price to book, or on the price to earnings. And price to earnings and price to sales are probably two of the more popular metrics that I personally look at whenever I'm evaluating a company. So Nvidia is a company that I have historically always said buy in, buy in, buy in. At this point, I'm letting the shares that I possess continue to ride, and the ones that I am not personally buying in, even though this is one of my all-time favorite companies, there's just so much going on that I don't necessarily want to buy in right now. Some of the key things that could change would be a rate increase that would see the company, or a interest rate increase, which would see one of these high growth companies like this definitely see a pullback in terms of the overall marketplace. And that can definitely occur to anything in the tech space, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that occur with Nvidia in particular. The other thing that I could see occur with a company like this is more forceful blocking on their acquisition of ARM. So ARM is another huge chip manufacturer or fabricator that they're expected to acquire. That's been going on for more than a year now, and the expectation is that that will close next year. So I'm looking forward to seeing additional news surrounding that trend. So if they were to increase their sales to what is expected, then I do believe that we are going to see the potential for that price to earnings continue to decline because their revenue will have gone up. So that's good and a plus. And then the other half of that is their profitability will continue to shine through there. So there's a lot going on there. So what am I looking for that could cause the stock price to go up if my concern for it going down is anything surrounding interest rates as well as China ARM acquisition news? Well, what I would be looking at for it to go up would be, are they going to provide another bullish forecast surrounding their cryptocurrency mining? And the reason for that is because last year, or rather their quarter end earnings, is they're expecting right at $400 million to come through in quarter revenue, strictly associated with chips that are currently being used in cryptocurrency mining. So if that's the case, and they say we expect this to continue, which is one of the reasons why I expect the stock to continue to climb, is because crypto is currently having a really strong weekend. So if we see those crypto prices continue to climb, and Nvidia is one of the key manufacturers for their chips, it could bode well for the latter half of the year. The other thing that I think will point well, one of the smaller percentages in terms of total revenue for Nvidia is their auto industry. That is the only company or the only section or segment of their revenue that did not increase in 2020, and I anticipate 2021 has been auto. And so depending on how they forecast that, if they're able to continue to push out those chips, then I do believe that is another item that could push the stock upwards. The company itself is again continuing to expect 50% growth, so I anticipate that this will continue to climb. If you look at some of the analyst reports associated with the company, we are rapidly approaching the upper end. They just had a number of analysts come out this past week, Wells Fargo included, saying they expect to see a higher increase in terms of the total expectation of the company to increase their earnings. So there's a lot of hype around this company, and that's because they continue to fire on all cylinders. So in terms of portfolio allocation, I do have, I'd say right at 5% of my total portfolio is in Nvidia. I'm currently in right at, say, 7 to 8 stocks. So this is one of my smaller holdings. That being said, it's not one I'm looking to add to because I have exposure, and I do think that this is one of the best companies that is publicly traded. However, they have some very high valuations. For that reason, I'd be careful adding at these levels, especially going into earnings. However, again, it's still one that has a lot of possibility to play. And if you're looking long term, I think that there is few companies that are operating on the same firepower as Nvidia. So that is my expectation going into earnings, is I do anticipate they are going to be good, but a lot of that could be in the increase that we've seen thus far. And depending on how well they do, we'll have to see, hey, does this a buy the rumor, sell the news play on the stock price? Or is this one where it's going to continue to push that higher? Again, the key things to look at in closing are going to be news surrounding their ARM acquisition, news surrounding their capability to continue to produce cryptocurrency mining chips, as well as their expectation around meeting demand going forward. So if they have all those laid out, I think the company will continue to do very, very well. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below or join the Discord in the description down below. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this helpful. Talk to you later.